Today we're going to be looking at something pretty crucial, I think, especially for anyone in the funeral profession. We're going to be diving into a blog post from Director's Corner. Now, you guys know Director's Corner is a fantastic resource, and they've been really advocating for something they call this holistic collaboration between funeral homes and hospice care.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're going to unpack a little bit today.
It's a fascinating topic, and it's really about going beyond just the referrals and looking at how these two worlds can really intertwine to benefit everyone involved.
Especially the families, right?
Especially the families going through a really difficult time.
Absolutely. So this blog post is targeted towards funeral directors and hospice providers. What are some of the biggest things that they're saying are the challenges to this type of collaboration?
Well, what the things that they highlight right off the bat is the misconceptions surrounding hospice care. They actually quote a statistic from the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization that says over 40% of Americans still believe that opting for hospice means giving up.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah, it's a pretty startling number.
It's a persistent myth for sure.
It is, and it really prevents people from accessing the incredible benefits that hospice can provide.
So how do they suggest we combat that then? Because it feels like just telling people hospice isn't giving up, that doesn't seem to be enough.
No, you're absolutely right. It requires a much more in-depth approach, and Director's Corner really emphasizes staff education as the first step.
Okay.
They've actually put together a whole toolkit on their website specifically designed to help funeral home staff really grasp what hospice care is all about.
Oh, wow.
It has all sorts of resources, sample presentations, Q&A sheets to address those common concerns, and even scripts for those difficult conversations that funeral directors might have with families who are considering hospice.
So it's about giving funeral directors the tools and knowledge to advocate for hospice care.
Exactly. It's about empowering them to be informed resources for the families they serve.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure that can lead to some really valuable conversations. But what about the community as a whole?
Yeah.
How do they suggest we reach those people who maybe haven't even considered these topics yet?
Well, Director's Corner is a big proponent of community outreach. They suggest partnering with local hospice organizations to do things like workshops or create brochures that really break down those common myths about hospice care.
All right.
They even talk about using social media to share stories that highlight the positive impact of hospice.
So it's about reaching out beyond the immediate circle of those directly involved in end-of-life care.
Exactly. It's about fostering a broader understanding and acceptance of hospice as a valuable part of end-of-life care.
I really like that. And it seems like that ties back into this whole idea of holistic collaboration that Director's Corner is advocating for.
Absolutely. It's not just about two organizations working together. It's about bringing the entire community into the conversation.
It's creating this network of support. Now, one of the things that really stuck out to me in this blog post was this section on creative collaboration. It goes beyond just referrals and training. They have some pretty innovative ideas.
They do. They're really thinking outside the box, and that speaks to their dedication to pushing the boundaries of what's possible in end-of-life care.
So give us an example. What's one of those out-of-the-box ideas that really grabbed you?
Well, one that I found particularly interesting was the idea of co-facilitating grief support groups where funeral directors and hospice staff work together.
Oh, wow.
So you have the funeral directors who can lend their expertise on ritual and ceremony, and then the hospice staff who can provide counseling and bereavement support.
So you're bringing together these different skill sets.
Exactly. It creates a more comprehensive and multifaceted approach to supporting those who are grieving.
They also talked about collaborating on fundraising events.
Right. Yes, not just to raise money, but to raise awareness and foster those community connections we were talking about.
Bringing people together. So it's not just about the financial aspect, but it's about building those relationships within the community.
Absolutely. It's about showing a united front and creating a sense of shared purpose.
Now, I'm curious about the more practical side of things. What does Director's Corner say about the tangible benefits of this type of collaboration?
Well, that's where we move from the why to the how, and Director's Corner doesn't disappoint. They provide very specific strategies for actually making this collaboration happen.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
One of the key things they talk about is having a formal referral system in place.
Okay.
Not just kind of a casual, hey, you should reach out to these folks.
Right, it needs to be more structured.
Exactly. It's about creating a clear pathway so families don't have to navigate a confusing system during an already difficult time.
Absolutely, and that makes a lot of sense. Then, beyond just the referral process itself, what else do they suggest?
Well, they emphasize the importance of consistent and regular communication, not just when there's a specific case, but like an ongoing dialogue between the funeral home and the hospice organization.
So building those relationships.
Exactly. It's about building trust and rapport so everyone's on the same page and working together seamlessly.
I could see how that would be so beneficial, especially for the families. Right? They're not having to repeat information or explain their situation multiple times.
Exactly. It streamlines the whole process and reduces stress for everyone involved.
And I think that's a huge part of what Directors Corner is advocating for, right? Taking a more holistic approach.
It's about recognizing that end-of-life care isn't just about one service or provider. It's about creating a network of support that wraps around the individual and their family.
Now, they also talk about joint training sessions for staff from both funeral homes and hospice organizations.
Yes, that's a critical component.
What kind of training are they recommending?
Well, they suggest focusing on things like communication skills, active listening, empathy, and how to have those tough conversations about death and dying.
Those are essential skills for anyone working in this field.
They are, and it's not always easy to navigate those sensitive topics. So having that training and support can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Now, I'm curious about something that stood out to me in the blog post. They talk about the importance of data collection and evaluation. It's one thing to talk about the benefits of collaboration, but how do we know it's actually making a difference?
Exactly. That's where data comes in. Directors Corner encourages both funeral homes and hospice organizations to track things like family satisfaction length of hospice stay staff morale.
So measurable outcomes.
Right. It's about looking at those concrete indicators to see how collaboration is impacting things on the ground.
That data can be really powerful, not just for proving the value of these partnerships, but also for identifying areas where things can be improved.
Absolutely. It helps you fine-tune your approach and make sure you're providing the best possible care.
And speaking of improvement, one of the most compelling sections of the blog post for me was when they talked about the ripple effect of this type of collaboration.
The ripple effect.
It's not just about the immediate families involved. It's about how this impacts the community as a whole.
It's about creating a cultural shift. Directors Corner argues that when funeral homes and hospice organizations work together effectively, it creates a more informed and compassionate community.
Okay, I could see that.
People become more comfortable talking about death and dying. Families feel more empowered to make choices that align with their values.
So it's about changing the conversation.
Exactly. It's about moving away from fear and secrecy and toward openness and understanding.
It's about normalizing these conversations.
Right, and that shift in perspective can benefit everyone, not just those who are directly facing end-of-life decisions.
Now, for those listening who are thinking, this all sounds amazing, but where do we start? What advice does Directors Corner have for taking that first step toward collaboration?
They recommend something really simple. Reach out. Connect with hospice organizations in your area. Attend their events. Start those conversations.
It's about building those bridges.
It's about making those initial connections and seeing where they lead. You never know what amazing partnerships might emerge.
And I think it's also important to remember that collaboration is a journey, not a destination.
It's an ongoing process.
Right. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to learn and adapt along the way.
Absolutely. And the rewards are well worth it.
Okay, so we've talked about why collaboration is so important and some of the practical strategies for making it happen. But now I want to get to the creative collaborations that go beyond those basic building blocks.
Yes, the innovative approaches that really demonstrate the power of this partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the examples that Directors Corner highlights in this blog post?
Well, one that really stood out to me was the idea of creating community education programs specifically for different age groups. Like young adults or seniors.
Well, that's interesting because we often think of end-of-life planning as something for older folks.
Yeah.
But starting those conversations earlier in life can be so valuable.
Absolutely. And Directors Corner talks about framing it as a way to take control of your narrative, to make sure your wishes are honored no matter what.
So it's about empowerment.
Exactly. It's about shifting the perspective from fear and avoidance to intentionality and choice.
I love that. What other creative collaborations caught your eye?
They also talk about co-creating memorial services that blend hospice philosophy with funeral traditions.
Okay, so what would that look like?
Well, imagine a service that not only honors the deceased, but also provides a space for healing and reflection for those who are grieving.
That's beautiful. It's about recognizing that grief is a journey.
Exactly. And this type of collaboration allows funeral homes and hospice organizations to provide support that extends beyond the immediate aftermath of a loss.
To really walk alongside families as they navigate that process.
It's about creating a more holistic and compassionate approach to bereavement.
I'm also really intrigued by their suggestion of partnering with local artists or musicians.
Oh, yes, that's a great one. Imagine incorporating live music into a memorial service or creating an art exhibit that explores themes of grief and loss.
It's about finding creative outlets for those emotions that are sometimes hard to put into words.
Exactly. It's about tapping into the power of art to express the complexities of grief and to create a shared experience of healing.
And I think that speaks to the broader impact of this collaboration. It's not just about logistics. It's about enriching the human experience at a time when people need it most.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the profound emotional and spiritual dimensions of end-of-life care.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. If you were a funeral director or a hospice provider, what's one creative collaboration you would love to see implemented in your community? What's one idea that could make a real difference in the lives of those facing end-of-life decisions?
That's a great question, and I would encourage everyone listening to really reflect on that. What unique skills and perspectives do you bring to the table? What partnerships could you forge to create something truly innovative and impactful?
Don't underestimate the power of your ideas. As we've seen from Director's Corner, collaboration can spark incredible change and create a more compassionate and supportive world for all of us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and inspiration for how to approach end-of-life care in your own communities.